legislation that led to special education today. First, I'm going to discuss the Vocational Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 504. The legislation worked to make sure that people with disabilities were included and not discriminated against. Under this act, people with disabilities were eligible to receive federal funding and other services similar to that. When the Vocational Rehabilitation Act was created, it was supposed to be applied toward employment opportunities just to make sure that everyone got the same opportunities and weren't being discriminated against just because they had a disability. And then some amendments were made, and the Rehabilitation Act of 1974 made sure people with disabilities were treated fairly in education, employment, health, and welfare. So after some amendments were made, it kind of was an all-encompassing act to make sure that they were not discriminated against. So now on to the Education for All Handicapped Children Act of 1975, 94 through 142. This stated that all people between the age of 3 and 18 must be provided with free and appropriate public education. Appropriate in this sense meaning right for the child's age, maturity, development, past achievements, parental expectations, and any disability. The term least restrictive environment also came about with this legislation. That means that the student will learn in the best setting for that student, whether that be in the general classroom, special education setting, or maybe even a combination of the two. The act was amended in 1983 to provide federal aid to state and local school systems, as well as extending services for children, younger children birth through age 5, and children who are deaf or blind. So that amendment allowed for more children to be given these services and make sure they have the education that they deserve. The 1986 amendment further developed early childhood services for children with disabilities and their families. So that 1986 amendment made sure that the younger students were being treated fairly. They made some amendments to the program before. The Education for All Handicapped Children Act of 1975 that I just talked about later developed into the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, and that's what we follow today. This legislation mandated that all children, regardless of the severity of their disability, would receive an education for free. Along with this, the education that they receive would be individualized for their needs. So the IDEA comes from the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, and today that's what we work with. And yeah, that is a little bit about the legislation that led to special education today. For more information, follow the link below.